Okay, hi everyone. So I just wanted to make this video really quick. It's going to be over the dichotomous key, and hopefully it'll answer any questions that y'all have with getting started or just questions on the key itself. I recorded it on Friday, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to convert it to like a video. It was just sound, and I wanted to be able to show you on my screen. So I will re-record this and go over all the questions that I answered and other questions that people have answered too, just for any clarity. So let's see if hopefully this works. Okay, give me 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. No, that's not gonna work. Hold on. Not what I wanted. Stop sharing. Let's try it again. Sorry. Okay. Let's look at this screen. So it's going to take me a while because I need to flip back and forth between screens. 1 second. Maybe just this way. Okay. Okay. Now it's taking me a few tries because I'm still new to this sharing screen thing. So this is the sheet that you all have. And okay, so there's 2 ways to go about starting this. First, let me give you a little quick rundown about the symbols. I know a lot of people have questions about that. So for K, all it means is that you are, that the bacteria is fermenting. Like let's say right here, E. coli ferments sucrose, but it doesn't use the sugars in, it doesn't use sucrose to ferment. It uses peptones that were like in the agar, the nutrients and stuff. So next is the AG, and then there's like down here you have on Shigella you have an A. So that just means it produces an acid or a gas. And if there's no G, it just produces the acid alone. Now, you don't need to like classify these based on acid or gas or just acid. You would just count it all together as it reacts. Next would be the positive and minus over here. That just means that it's not specific to the species. So like Shigella dysenteriae, it's not, indole production is not specific to this particular dysentery. I mean, it's not dysentery, sorry. Shigella dysenteriae, it's, it can react, it can also not, it just depends on the circumstance. So you would just try not to use that as the classifier. As its identifier. You would try to go for something that has a definite positive or negative. I think that's all the questions that I've had to answer on that. Okay, so let's get started. Now, I will open up my Word document. I have seen multiple people use like a flow chart to describe this. That is one way you can do it. That's not what Dr. Sandberg asked for. I told him it might be a little confusing since on Google, a lot of the tutorials were flow charts. So if you're already like way into your flow chart, that's fine. We will try to work with you when, if you come to me and I'm like looking at it, as long as you're getting the right answer, but preferably this method. And it's not as hard as it sounds. Once you start doing it, it's a little bit easier and it's easy to read. So you want to look at either the gram reaction or the morphology to start with, because that's the most broad across the board. You're either going to have gram positive or gram negative, or you're going to have cocci shape or rod shaped. You can also put bacillus. Rod and bacillus are the same thing. But I'm going to, for this purpose, I'm going to use rod. So we have cocci and rod. Now, next to it, let me give some space. I'm going to go to 2. We will come back to the rod shape later, but right now we're going to look at cocci. So we're going to go to 2A, and now we'll look at the other. So we did morphology first. Now we're going to look at gram positive. You can start with either one. Doesn't have to be how I'm doing it. If you want to start with gram reaction, you would start with gram positive, gram negative, and then you would start with cocci and then rod. So totally your preference. The only thing that matters is that you get the biochemical tests right when it comes to the bacteria, when it comes to identifying the bacteria. That's all that matters. And I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. So we're at 2. Now we can start looking at gram positive. Go to the side. We will come back to that, and we will. So let's open up our document. What do we have here? Here we have, hold on. Still doing good. Okay, so we have Neisseria lactima, which is gram negative cocci. We have Staph aureus, which is a gram positive cocci, Micrococcus luteus, which is a gram positive cocci, and Enterococcus faecalis, which is a gram positive cocci. So we can easily say Neisseria lactima is the only gram negative cocci, right? No other one can go there, so we can mark that off. And quick rule of thumb, whenever you're typing bacteria species name, or any species name for that matter, whether it's like a mammal or insect, anything with a species name, you want to have it italicized. If you're handwriting, which most of y'all are with these, you will underline, if I can get it. This is how it's going to look when you write it. It's gonna, let's see if I can get rid of that. So that's how it would look when you're writing. So it's not one big underline. You have 2 separate. But because I'm using italics, I can use that format. Okay, so we have identified our only gram negative cocci. Can mark that off. Now we go on to gram positive. And there's 3 of those that we need to identify. So we will move forward. Next, we will be looking at, let's start with this one, fermentation of lactose. Well, it looks like they all ferment lactose except for Micrococcus luteus. They all ferment sucrose except for Micrococcus luteus. They all ferment no, sorry, this is sucrose. They all ferment dextrose and sucrose. The only one that doesn't ferment anything is Micrococcus luteus. And so let's pick on sucrose. We will say does not, no, sorry. And sucrose and then does not ferment sucrose. So let's go back. We have here that Micrococcus luteus does not ferment sucrose and the other two do. So we will say for fermenting sucrose, we will move on to the next to get a little bit more specific. Go to 4. Next, does not. We know that Micrococcus luteus does not. Okay, so moving on. 4A, 4B. Okay. Now we've exhausted all options for fermentation. We can move forward to the next column, which is hydrogen sulfide. And it looks like none of these produce hydrogen sulfide. So we move on, we go to the next column. We see a positive sign here in Staph aureus. We don't need to look at Micrococcus because we've already identified that. And then we'll move down here to Enterococcus, which is a negative. So we can say one does one and the other does not. Now we see that is the reduction of nitrate. So we know that right here, Staph aureus does reduce nitrate. So we will write this is nitrate. Does not reduce nitrate. Again, doesn't need to be anything fancy. All we have to put is whether it does or does not. And for does, we will put Staph aureus. Disease. And then what was the last one? Enterococcus faecalis does not. So then we go here. So again, rule of thumb, always italicize or underline. And there we have Neisseria lactamica, Micrococcus luteus, Staphylococcus aureus, and Enterococcus faecalis, which are all of our cocci bacteria. So we can cross those off our list. Now we have to go to the rods. We have not identified those yet, so we left this blank. Now we'll say go to 5, since 5 is the next number on our list. So it's just going to be one big long list. 5A, 5B. Now, okay. We're going to do the same thing that we did over in the first part. We're going to go to gram positive, gram negative. And so you're going to look at the chart. You're going to see, do we have any that are just the one that we can knock out? No. So you're going to continue this process and you're just going to move down the line. My biggest tip for doing this is to look at the numbers of things you're identifying and try to knock out the least, the group with the least amount. So if you wanted to do rod negatives first, you can. If you wanted to do rod positives first, you can. It'll be a lot easier because you only need to do 1 and 2, and then those are knocked out. Again, totally up to you. The last thing is try to stay away from using motility as an identifier, only because it's not biochemical. It's not a test. It's not a test that you can use. So it's more of a characteristic. But yeah, so if you have any questions, go ahead and email me. If you want to come see me, you want to show me your final product just to make sure it's clear before sending in, totally fine. I'm happy to help. If you want to reach out to Dr. Sandberg, that's also fine. Whoever you get to first, again, totally fine. I hope this answers your questions. Again, I'm sorry that I didn't get to send these to you on Friday, but hopefully this will send in the email. So I will cut it off before it gets to be too big to send. And yeah, have a good rest of your day, guys. Bye.